I am so glad to be back in Texas. This past Tuesday was the 19th anniversary of the Worcester Cold Storage Warehouse fire, where they lost 6 firefighters while they were trying to find a homeless couple who had started the fire. Mike McNamee, who was the B-side commander, was responsible for trying to locate the firefighters who were lost in the building. He got to a point where he knew he was throwing good after bad, and he had 12 firefighters lined up to go in and search, and he made the decision not to rescue the downed firefighters. He stood in the doorway like this and said, "No more." After that incident, the Worcester Fire Department made a choice to develop training that they would offer the fire service around the country. My brother-in-law got to take that training. He's a battalion chief for Prince William County, Virginia Fire Rescue. Fast forward to 2007, April 16th. The call comes into Prince William County. It's a house fire. Kyle Wilson and his partner are the first on scene. They are assuming that there are people trapped inside. They entered the A side, the front of the house. At the same time, the wind changed. If you read the NIOSH report, this became a study about how wind conditions can impact a fire. The wind came up through the back of the house, blew open the basement door, came up the steps, fueling the fire and separating the 2 firefighters. Kyle's partner got out, Kyle didn't. My brother-in-law arrived on scene about 10 minutes into the call, and he looked at the house and he knew it was lost. He made the decision, even though they could still hear Kyle on the comm, who was saying calmly, "I'm burning, I need water." But Steve knew if he sent any more firefighters inside the house, they wouldn't make it out. So he turned around, he held his hands up, and he said no more. He physically had to hold back 4 firefighters who were rushing him to go into the house to rescue Kyle. I learned of that story when I had entered a PhD program. I was always interested in why people make the decisions they do. So I entered a program in transformative studies at the California Institute of Integral Studies that would enable me to look at decision-making from any angle. I could let psychology inform it, or quantum physics, or spirituality. It wasn't limited as to how I informed my question. As I was traversing the rabbit holes of transformative studies literature, I discovered this idea of flow. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. And I mentioned it to my brother-in-law, and he told me Kyle's story. I realized all of the characteristics of flow were in my brother-in-law's decision-making process. I went back to my committee and I said, I want to look at critical decision-making in the fire service. They thought that was a pretty cool idea. They told me interview 16 firefighters, 8 men and 8 women. They wanted to know if there was a gender difference, and there isn't. I collected 49 stories. I analyzed the heck out of them for 2 years, Wrote my dissertation and published it in November of 2011. I sent it out to all my participants. David Rhodes, who is a battalion chief in the Atlanta Fire Department, was in my study. He also heads up an extreme experiential training program in the fire service called Georgia Smoke Diver. He called me up and he said, would you like to come observe a training? Because what I found is, my question was, does being in a flow state facilitate decision making? And the answer is yes, if you've had the right training and experience. Over time, I began to see patterns in that organization, their leadership model, their decision-making model, and that's how I came to write my book and develop this flow-based leadership model. Flow is the intersection of skill and challenge. So at any level, you can be a beginner. If you are being challenged in the moment, you can experience flow. Go to that activity. Within that activity, there might be tasks that you do over and over and over again, and all of a sudden everything gets boring. Boredom pulls you out of flow. Okay, go back to it again. You're going along, everything's rocking and rolling, it's so much fun, and you are in the zone. And all of a sudden, something comes at you that you've never seen before, and you become anxious. Anxiety pulls you out of flow. So how do we mitigate boredom and anxiety? We do that through training and experience. When people work at their peak, they are 5 times more productive. So it behooves us to facilitate flow for people because their productivity is going to go up. All of this is facilitated by training and experience. And it enables you to react appropriately in an environment that is volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. So I came up with this model of leadership and I'm a consultant, but I couldn't see putting it in the traditional pillars of consultancies, and because pillars are silos. This doesn't work unless everything is working. So I'm going to give this to you in a linear fashion, but it isn't linear. Modeling the behavior you want other people to have. People are watching you. New people are coming up behind you and they're watching you. You have a responsibility. Even if you don't have the title of leader, you have a responsibility to modeling the behavior you want to see in your environment. Share knowledge, read the NIOSH reports, discuss them with the teams. Provide experience. Make sure people are getting the training they need. Ask them what they need. People know where they're lacking. And make sure they have the tools to do their job every day. Keep your infrastructure safe in working order. Effectively manage knowledge. And mentor. That's part of leading by example. Mentoring is going to help bring up the new folk. You can mentor up and you can mentor down.